Propaganda at its finest. But travel with me down this rabbit hole, because it starts here, ends up somewhere else.
I don't know where you come from, but I give you all the welcome I've got to offer you. And I want to tell you that I'm living on the same ground that I've lived on for 75 long years when I come here as an 18-year-old bride. I went to Washington 50 years and a little more ago. I saw all the people around there and been with the president. And I learned a great many things up there that I didn't know before. I'll add a little more to it. I was one of the board of lady managers for the Chicago Exposition. And I served my full time in Chicago and learned a good many things over there. I was a delegate to the Tennessee Centennial Exposition. I was a delegate to St. Louis, a juror at St. Louis. I think for a North Georgia cracker of my size and age, I've had a pretty good education on that line. That do all right? I was a 3-year-old girl when the Indians were moved from this country to Indian Territory. I have an indistinct recollection of seeing the red men as they went through the woods, for everything was woods nearly at that time. I have a distinct impression, if a 3-year-old child can have it. Nevertheless, I've been here since that time, and I've seen the march of progress all the way. At that time, we had only stagecoaches, and we only had horses and buggies, and we had lots of footback travelers, usually. Now I've seen it come along all this way, and the airplane goes over my house, going on its way, and it's got to be such a common thing. The old girl don't go even out to see if she can look at it.
Quite a few things to take away from that. So 1929, 75 years puts her back, possibly 1850s, late 18. So calling her a former slave owner, you know what I mean, is a hell of a stretch when slavery ended in 1863. I swear these people will put you in whatever time frame. But another thing is her talking about the Chicago Exposition, her working at the Chicago Exposition. So initially when I first got this, I was just kind of interested in what she was talking about as far as slavery. But then she talked about the Indians. I ain't even going to get into all that. But let's look up the Chicago Exposition, because this World's Fair shit just keeps popping up.
Cultural marker that points to the transition from global isolation to inclusion is the World's Fair, which were also called World Expositions, where people from all around the globe came to both present and admire scientific, cultural, or artistic creation from their peers. There have been several impactful iterations of the World Fair throughout history, but one edition in particular was the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition, held in Chicago. For both the city of Chicago and the entire world, this event left a lasting impact. What's more, for a city...
First thing I saw were these water fountains. This is a different photo, but same thing. And I was like, water fountains? Especially multitudes of water fountains. Because electricity, or at least AC electricity, wasn't really getting started until about 1886. Why is that important? Even DC electricity was in the 1870s. And you start getting into some of your first motors being built in the 1830s, okay? I say that because you need water pumps to pump water out to make it shoot like that. If you want to make it shoot, which requires electricity, which requires water-sealed DC motors or AC motors, which means you would need AC or DC electricity in order to move those. And you would need sealed water pumps. So not only knowing motors, but also knowing how to water seal them and get them to do all that. You don't get some of that until the 1933 Buckingham Fountain in Chicago was one of the first American fountains to use powerful modern pumps to shoot water as high as 150 feet in the air, right? And you can look at this and it says, how did fountains work before electricity? Beginning in ancient times, fountain designers relied on gravity, channeling water through a higher source in closed systems to provide pressure, which can never provide that much pressure. Typically, you were going to get a little spout in order for people to come drink out of or something like that. Aqueducts and things of that nature, not motors. So then I started to question, was the video even real video? Like, was the video camera invented before 1893? And here's a summary of the video camera being so-called invented by 1888, 1891, and then 1894. So it looks like there was some form of video cameras available. So then you start to think, I know I started thinking back then, was the World's Fair thing a fake thing, something that they came up with? But no, you got a person here who says she worked there. She says she was working there, and she worked at the one in St. Louis and the other one in wherever else. So I can't say that it was fake. You got this old lady talking about it, and she called herself a cracker.
Since the mid-1700s, the World Fair has been a momentous global event held every few years, and many feel that the popularity was a direct result of the Industrial Revolution, rapidly advancing technology in terms of communication and travel, as well as exponential hyper-globalization of the world. These expositions would not be possible without the global trends of the time. Buildings, massive exhibition halls presented the most cutting-edge technology, and electricity quickly became the most talked about topic. As electricity was just about to become the common commodity that it is today, visitors were enamored with the new electric innovations, such as incubators for chicken eggs, electric execution chairs, the fax machine, sewing machines, electric irons, laundry washing machines, the light bulb, and various other engines. This area of the expo was eventually labeled the White City due to all the marble neoclassical aesthetics, as well as the fact that the buildings would be lit up at night with electrical lights.
Like, it's just hard for me to believe that they had water sealed pumps or pumps, period, to get that many fountains to spurt that high. Especially as rudimentary as this electricity shit was right here. But they had it. So it may not have been this equipment. It's like, what are they doing? Like they switching it. They switching some old video. Was this from the World's Fair? And because this, I don't even know if this was at the World's Fair or not.
The midway section was focused more on pure entertainment and audience enjoyment. Over time, the midway got so popular that it actually lured customers away from White.
Then as I'm watching it, I see Moorish Palace. What is a Moorish Palace sign doing in the World's Fair in Chicago in 1893? Yeah, they said that they celebrated different cultures out there, but really? Out of the Germans and the other ones, you got Moroccans? At least those African Moroccans?
Technological exhibits was electricity. And while electricity had already been harnessed as a source of power by European inventors for several years prior, things like electrical light, electrical appliances, or engines were not common household items just yet, meaning this was the first time many Americans had even laid eyes on them. The 1893 World Fair also had a lingering influence on architecture, with the cultural significance of this demonstration leading to a revival of classical architecture and heavy use of marble or stone. One of the most critical but also intangible effects of the 1893 World Fair in Chicago was the new role.
I don't have much time left. I just want to make one video about it, but it said that this place only took over 2 years to build all that stuff with stone, marble, all that stuff, fountains, electricity. They didn't know anything. They didn't have cars. They didn't have none of that. Okay? Come on now. And then something comparable today, it took 4 years to build a mall, with today's time. It took about 3 years to build the Devon Tower in Oklahoma City, which is a tall skyscraper. About 3 years to build the Sears Tower, okay? Statue of Liberty took about 10 years. But they constructed all of this in 2 years. Pumps led underground, all this pipes and everything to lead to each one of these single fountains, all this other stuff, all this architecture, marble, stone structure. Look, man, somebody playing.